Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for Fixing Your Technician Resource Gap. I'm going to give it just a few more minutes for people to log in. We'll get started in just a few minutes. Okay, great. I think a lot of people have already logged in, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to today's webinar on Fixing Your Technician Resource Gap. My name is Emily Hackman, and I'm the Director of Marketing at Astea International. If you're not familiar with Astea, we are the market leaders in service lifecycle and mobile workforce management. We've been developing award-winning field service management solutions for nearly 40 years. I'm joined today by Tim Sparks, who's the Chief Growth Officer at ProAutomated. Tim, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Absolutely, Emily. And you guys are in for a treat. You're going to really enjoy Emily's presentation here on fixing your technician gap. Like Emily said, I'm Tim Sparks. ProAutomated is a third-party service provider where we specialize in finding the right resources quickly for our customers. We have 90 total employees. They're all direct W-2 to ProAutomated. We subcontract for manufacturers, and almost all of our employees are millennials. We've completed just over 13,000 projects since 2007. So we've been in the contingent workforce space for 11 years. We were here long before it was popular. It was kind of a dirty word back in the early 2000s, if you remember that. And so we've kind of ridden this wave of technician resources.
Great. Thank you so much, Tim. Before we jump into the slides, everyone, I'm just going to run through the typical webinar housekeeping items. Yes, this is being recorded. We always record our webinars. I will send the recording out next week to everyone who registered. So if you need to leave early today or you wanted to review what we cover or share it with a colleague, you will definitely be able to. As Tim mentioned, we have lots of great content to share with you. I'll try to move quickly so that we do have time for Q&A at the end. So as we're going through the slides, if you have a question, please save it for the end, and we'll try to address as many of them as we can. I'll also share our contact details so that if we don't get to your question, you can follow up with either Tim or me. So let's jump into it. Here are the things we're going to be talking about today. We're going to start with the current state of the field technician labor force. Then we're going to go through a profile of real-life millennial technicians, mostly using data from ProAutomated's technicians, like Tim was mentioning. Then we're going to talk about how to improve your technician recruiting, hiring, training, and development. And then we'll close with talking more about contingent and third-party workforce. Now, before we get started, I'm going to attempt to launch a poll here, so please bear with me. I'm hoping this works. And you know what? I don't think the polls are going to work today, unfortunately, and that's a shame. So we're just going to keep going. All right, what is the current state of the field technician labor force? 50% of service leaders who were polled last year said that they were currently facing a shortage of resources to adequately meet service demand. This data comes from the Service Council, and you'll notice that we use a lot of their data. I just wanted to give them a quick shout out. If you don't already partner with them, Highly recommended. Astea partners with the Service Council, and we go to their symposium every year. They do some great research in the service industry, so highly recommend getting connected with them. So in 2016, 70% of service organizations predicted that they would experience a field worker shortage in the next 5 to 10 years. It is an astounding statistic. And out of that 70%, one half of organizations are dealing with a retiring workforce right now. And what does that mean? It means that an outflow of experienced field service talent leads to the loss of your technicians' knowledge and expertise, their relationships with your customers, and their work ethic and reliability. So the question I asked myself when I was putting this content together was, is field service alone? And the answer is no. In 2016, 40% of 42,000 employers reported having difficulties filling roles. And at that time, for the fifth year in a row, skilled trade positions were the hardest roles to fill. And you'll see I have listed there the top 5 hardest roles to fill. And guess what number 5 is? Technicians. So number 1 is skilled trade. Number 2, IT staff. Number 3, sales reps. Number 4, engineers. Number 5, technicians. So the question that we're all asking is, who is going to fill the shoes of these retiring field techs? The loss of the workforce really is only part of the issue. You have to understand that the bigger issue at stake here is the lack of interested candidates who will fill the shoes of your retiring technicians. And that, of course, leads us to the millennials. I wanted to give you a little snapshot of where millennials are in the workforce in general. So the example I took was the largest job sector in America, which is retail. In America, there are 4.75 million retail workers. And you'll see the vast majority of them in retail are millennials. But let's take a step back and talk about these points here. So 2015 was a very important year for millennials. At that time, they were between the ages of 18 and 34 years old. In 2015, millennials surpassed Generation X to become the largest share of the American workforce. So 3 years ago, more than 1 in 3 American workers were millennials. Now, if you're looking at this graph and you're wondering who's Generation Z, Gen Z are the folks who come after the millennials. So all of you who've been watching the Olympics and you see they're interviewing some of the athletes and they say, "Hi, I'm 17. I was born in 2001. That's Generation Z. So they're the ones coming after the millennials. I think this is something that's on the top of mind for everyone, is this culture clash. Given the aging workforce, it is very important for your organization to understand the huge differences between the baby boomers and the millennials. Resources out there are saying that this is possibly the largest cultural shift within the workplace ever. So the question I have for you is, what are service organizations doing about it? Unfortunately, the answer is not much yet. 38% are in denial. They're hiding their head in the sand. They don't want to deal with it yet. It's too overwhelming. 62% are saying, you know what, we understand this is a big change, and we admit that we're going to have to make some changes in order to accommodate the difference between these types of workers. And so how many of you have actually done something about it? 62% said, yes, we admit we need to change, but have you done anything about it? Only 15% of companies surveyed have already redeveloped strategies for millennials. And that's probably why so many of you are joining us today. You understand that this is something that you need to be doing now. Let's talk about millennial technicians. Who are they? First and foremost, this data is from the Service Council, and 36% of millennial techs said that they found their job online. Obviously, this is going to be different than some of the baby boomers who found it in the newspaper, perhaps a referral. The reason I have that Indeed logo up there is that ProAutomated used Indeed to find 98% of its millennial techs. So if you're not already using Indeed to post new technician jobs, I highly recommend it. Indeed is really easy to use on a mobile phone. It has an app. It's mobile responsive. So that's probably a reason why it's such a popular way to find jobs for millennials. All of these questions now, or these are questions that we asked ProAutomated's technicians. We surveyed them, and these are their answers. So we asked them, was field service your first career choice? 67%, or double the number of respondents, said no. This is really important to keep in mind because what this means is there's going to be some education involved. You're not going out to a group of people who already self-selected, self-identified, and said, yes, this is what I want to do, and I completely understand it. Now I just need to find my job. You're going to have to go a little deeper. You're going to have to educate them. You're going to have to explain to them, what does it mean to be a field service tech? What does it entail? What are the benefits for you? There's definitely going to be some education that you're going to have to do with your HR department in order to find these qualified candidates. Next, we asked ProAutomated's technicians, what is the best part of your job? Leading the list is solving problems. 67%. They want to help solve customer problems. About 40% said they want to learn new things. Another almost 40% said, I want to travel to new places. This trend of learning new things, experiencing new places, this is something you'll hear a lot from millennials. They want to expand their horizons. Another 38% said, I'm really good with working with my hands. 29% said, I really like fixing things. And 10% said something else. We asked them the flip side of that question, what is the worst part of your job? Not surprisingly, and this is also in alignment with a lot of the Service Council's data, is 33% said, I hate doing the paperwork and the administrative tasks. It's a necessary evil for their job, but it's not something that they like to do. Traveling, 29% said, I don't really like traveling, and that's not surprising. Traveling is not easy. It definitely can be exhausting. 29% said something else. And then the last three groups, about 10% each, said they don't like having to search for information. Again, these are millennials. They're used to having information at their fingertips. They don't want to have to search for it. They want it to be instantly available. Another 10%, they don't like working on their own. They don't like feeling isolated. And then the last group said, I don't like feeling pressure to finish my project. This is more of a qualitative question that we asked them. We said, how do you view yourself in your job? And we gave them three options. Number one, I'm highly technical and I'm really good at fixing complex systems. 29% of them said that. The other option was, I'm a people person and I really like solving customer problems. Another 29% said that. But the vast majority said, you know what, I'm a little bit of both. This is another really important trend that we're going to talk about later in the presentation, is about the importance of career growth and advancement opportunities. So these are the options that we gave them for answers. You'll see leading the way at 62% of their technicians said, I would like to become a manager or a team leader one day. Right after that, at 48%, they said, I have high aspirations. Being a field tech is just a starting point. 29% said, I will only work for a company that has clearly defined growth opportunities. Again, this is something we'll cover in the next section about training and development, because that's a very strong statement. He or she is not just saying, maybe I would work for a company. No, he's saying, I will only work for a company that has clearly defined growth opportunities for my career. And last but not least, at 14%, I'm happy as a technician for now. Keep in mind the answer, again, has that qualifier at the end. I'm happy as a tech for now. So if you walk away with nothing else, remember that you need to give them options. They want to be able to move up in your organization. You need to tell them you can start at this level, but these are the other options for you as you advance in your career. We also asked them, what tools and technologies would you most like to have? And they answered these top four, which aren't surprising. They want live video support. They want wearables and smart glasses. They want a searchable knowledge base. And they want access to customer history. And with most of the service management solutions on the market today, including Astea's, we offer solutions for all of these things. We asked them another qualitative question. How do you work best? They had three options. Option number one, I'm self-sufficient. I really like doing my own thing most of the time. Or, I really need to be part of a team. I want to work collaboratively. Most people said, I'm a mix of both. We're going to pause for a minute and poke some fun at the millennials. And I'm allowed to because I am a millennial. So I'm happy to poke some fun at myself and some of my generation. So, what are some common millennial workplace characteristics? This book, What Millennials Want from Work, is based on survey data from more than 25,000 millennials from 22 countries and from more than 300 organizations. And the four main points of the book are this. Number one, millennials are entitled, but they're also hardworking. They want to have a say. They want to contribute their ideas. They do not want to do repetitive or boring work. And they don't expect to work to stop when they leave. They grew up with technology. They grew up with smartphones. So, they get their email on their phone. They understand that at 5 o'clock when they leave, they're not actually done. Number two, millennials are needy, but they're also independent. They want support, they want feedback, and they really want to feel appreciated. They want to feel like they're having an impact on your organization. This is something we'll touch on later, and when we talk about having a mentoring program, because they really do crave that kind of support and that kind of feedback. That's very important for them. They think about what they need to be successful, and what that means is they're strategic. They're always thinking ahead that, what tools do I need? What skills do I need? How can I be the most successful at this job? Number three, millennials are high tech, but they're also high touch. So yes, of course they love technology. It reduces drudgery. It saves them time. Efficiency is very important for millennials. If they think there's a better, faster way to do something, that's the way they're going to want to do it. They're also very social. They view work as a social part of their life. So they want to have a community at work, and they want to have work friends. Last but not least, this is my favorite. Millennials are committed, but they're leaving too. And what the author here is saying is they don't necessarily want to leave your organization. They want to move up. So essentially, if you're not offering the ability for them to move up, if you're not saying these are the paths you can take to advance your career within our company, they're going to go somewhere else that will. The other thing is they need a work-life balance. You can't overload them. They need to feel like they have some kind of balance in their life. These are my favorite questions because these are questions, again, that we surveyed. We asked ProAutomated's technicians. So every single answer you see in these next couple slides is word for word what ProAutomated's technicians, who are all millennial technicians, actually said. So we asked them, why did you choose a field service profession? Answer number one, I stumbled into it, but I knew right away I didn't want to sit in a cubicle all day. That's another common theme. They don't want to be tied down. Again, number two, I wanted to stay mobile, and I didn't want to be tied to a desk. I wanted options and experiences. And the last person said, I was drawn to the fact that field service is ever changing. It's never the same location, and I have lots of new experiences. Again, that theme of new, learning new things. We asked them, what advice would you give to a peer who was considering their profession? I thought this was interesting. First person said, it's lots of fun. You get to go to places you could never imagine. It's not without its challenges, but it's worth every bit of it. The second answer, I think, is my favorite. Expect the unexpected, roll with the punches with travel and job sites. Be aware of political and personnel issues you will run across. You're not going to be in a controlled environment. They're not going to be in an office. They're going to be out and about. There are no safe places to go and get a hug. That's my favorite answer. And then the last one said, make sure you are organized and be ready to travel. Next, we asked them, what kind of company do you want to work for? Answer number one, a company that cares, shows that I make a difference. I don't want to feel like a cog in the system or another tool in the tool bag. Again, they want to feel appreciated. Second person said, I want a company that cares about the individual, sometimes even over the company. The last person said, small company feeling. Everyone in the company cares about you and knows who you are. Lots of caring in there. Next, we asked them, what advice would you give companies looking to hire millennials? So I hope all of you are listening. This is directly from the mouths of the millennial technicians. Number one said, give them the tools they need, give them something to own, and give feedback in a timely manner. Again, that theme of giving feedback. We want to know we matter, right? They want to make a difference. We're making a difference in how we are doing. Again, always craving feedback. The next one, weed out those people that have entitlement issues. I think it's funny they're actually calling that out. Watch out for those who talk too much and are cocky and arrogant. Look for professionalism. I think that's funny. They're also poking fun at their own generation. The last person said, new technical professionals are coming out of colleges. Post on Indeed and expand your social media presence. Again, they love social media, so get active if you are not currently active on social media. How are millennial technicians different than veteran techs? The actual question we asked them was, in your experience, what are the biggest differences between millennial technicians and technicians with 15 or 20 plus years of experience? And this is what they said. Look at answer A. This is very important. You have to handle millennial technicians gentler and give more feedback. Again, this theme of feedback. Second answer was the work ethic of older techs is apparently in their mind is different than millennials. More experienced techs have a win or lose attitude, whereas millennials have a participation attitude. I thought that was very insightful. It's very interesting. The last person said millennials are less assertive and not as hands-on, so not as good with handling tools. That's some interesting answers there. So next we're gonna talk about how you can improve your recruiting, hiring, training, and development for your technicians. This quote, I think, speaks volumes. This is from the Service Council, one of their reports from 2016. A VP from a large North American HVAC company said, we don't tuck our kids into bed at night dreaming that they will one day become field service technicians. And when I read that, I asked myself, well, why? Why not? What's so wrong with being a field service technician? It seems like a good job. Well, the answer is being a field service technician is not considered to be a lucrative job. One of the recommendations the Service Council has is you have to rethink how you position the role of field service. A job description that's only going to mention fixing equipment is missing what millennial technicians especially want most, including solving customer problems. Again, that was number one in their list. Working in teams. They want to work as part of a team. They want that community. Driving innovation in the organization, right? They want to feel like they're making an impact, they're making a change, and they want to work with the latest tools and technology. All of these answers align with what millennials crave in a job. They want to make a difference. They want to feel like they're part of something bigger. They want to have a team and be part of a work community, and they definitely want to learn and experience new things, especially new technology. So again, the Service Council is telling us these are the top 4 factors that are critical in developing the quote-unquote right field service workforce. Number 1, competitive salary and benefits. And remember, you have to figure out what you can afford to offer as far as salary, but don't discount the importance of benefits, because you can give them things like flexibility and work-life balance that are going to mean a lot to them. Number 2, focus on personality traits and behaviors in the hiring process. So, take a good hard look at who your best technicians are today or were in the past, and what are those skill sets? What are those behavioral characteristics? Profile them and figure out, if you pick one of your best technicians and say, Bob is the best technician we have. Profile him, ask him questions, figure out what are his skills, what are his behaviors like, and that's who you want to look for. But at the same time, you keep in mind that the role of the tech is evolving. So If you want them to be brand ambassadors who can help with expand selling, which just means that they're out there when they're talking to customers, they're helping upsell and cross sell and identify new opportunities that they can then pass on to your sales teams to work, that requires a different skill set than in years past. Customized training programs is number three. Not every new technician needs to be trained on every single product and every single procedure. So if you're overwhelmed by thinking about how you get them up to speed, there's so much for them to learn. Start small. The provision of a career path. Again, millennials don't want to leave. They want to move up. So if you're not giving them that opportunity and you're not saying up front, look, this is the role you're going to start off with. This is how long you're going to probably stay in that role. And then these are your options for advancement as you grow with our company, then you're going to lose them. They're going to go to your competitor. Only 43% of field service companies right now have career paths for field service agents. So do you fall into that or not? Think about that. And if you do, you need to go back to your HR department. You need to fix that. The organizations that had career paths, not surprisingly, lower turnover and much higher employee satisfaction. So where do we find them? Again, keep in mind, over 70% of technicians did not study to become a technician. So there's definitely some education that's going to be involved. Look at adjacent industries, look at military veterans, and try to find people with mechanical and technical skills. And partner with vocational, VOTEC schools, even high schools. You can sponsor or support group projects, workshops, or scholarships that introduce students to field service. What this will allow you to do is develop a pipeline of talent that is already familiar with your products and your procedures. If you donate a piece of equipment to a school or to a certain program, those students could have hands-on training. They could be learning about your equipment, learning about your products. And if you take it a step further and you donate your time, or a colleague of yours donates your time and gets to know the students, you could be identifying people that when they do graduate would be good candidates. And I mentioned this earlier, how important this is to develop a mentoring and a coaching program. Learning studies have shown that workers prefer to learn from one another, not from a formal program. So what would a mentoring program do for you? It helps combat future knowledge loss. It helps younger and older technicians make connections early on. And it really helps the new technicians to become successful members of your team. Remember, millennials crave mentors. Mentoring programs help new workers identify various career paths they want to take or specialized expertise that they want to gain. And I want you to think about, from the flip side, think about how the millennial techs can help the seasoned ones, right? They're very good with new technology. They want to contribute their thoughts and ideas. So let them. The other thing that the Service Council recommends is to develop succession planning that extends beyond service leaders. So, look in your regional field hierarchies and identify potential risk areas that you need to address. Either if it's with new talent, hiring a new person, or if it's transferring someone from another geography or another line of work. Don't wait until the last minute until somebody retires and there's nobody there to fill their shoes. All right, lastly, we're going to talk about contingent and third-party workers. Field service work executed by third parties. 32% was outsourced. 68% was not outsourced. This data is again from the Service Council in 2016. And when they surveyed organizations and they asked them how many were outsourcing field service, 76% said they were. That's a huge number. Only 24% were not outsourcing at least something within the organization. This is, that was the current state. This is the future state of what in this slide, the Service Council is talking about an augmented workforce. It means the same thing. But you'll see here, and they break the categories into four, being dealers, third-party service organizations like ProAutomated, regional service providers, and independent contractors. And you'll notice that every single one of those types of contingent workers is growing. The use of that is going to grow within service organizations within the next 12 months, so in 2018, all the way through the next 5 years. All of this use is going to increase. And here's why. 63% said that they rely on third-party workers so that they can increase their coverage. 56% do it so they have the flexibility to meet fluctuating demand. 44% wanted to reduce their labor cost, and 29% wanted to increase their availability. Now, this quote you see at the top here, any low utilization asset is ready to be disrupted by the sharing economy. This is a quote from a senior service leader from a large heavy equipment manufacturer. Many service leaders are starting to view their labor as an asset that needs extended flexibility. Most service organizations outsource labor to increase their coverage, but many are also considering outsourcing areas where a new full-time employee maybe isn't needed. The reality is, with greater access to these workforce management tools that we have on the market, these flexible labor options are only getting more and more lucrative. Now, at this point, I want to pause and invite Tim to jump back in. These are questions I asked him prior to the webinar, and I thought it might be nice to have him answer them live for all of you folks right now. So, Tim, I asked you, in ProAutomated's experience, what industries are most likely to use contingent and third-party technicians?
Yeah, thanks, Emily. And almost all industries can use contingent workforces, as the data that you just shared showed. And so here I've tried to share some insights from my customers that they've given me for feedback, and then from my experience. So industries where it's difficult to find and hire qualified technicians. Qualified is probably the key word there. You guys know the challenges you have in hiring and then qualifying that candidate, especially as with this workforce transition with millennials that we're all facing. Industries where the time to train a new hire is actually decently high. This may be a surprise to some, but really we found, in my experience, 6 months to 12 months. That's kind of a sweet spot for contingent workforces. It gets the contingent company, the third-party service provider, and yourself on a similar playing field, I would say. Industries that require a high amount of travel are really good for third-party providers, independent contractors, depending on the type of work. Industries with peaks and valleys, so you can kind of smooth over some of those workforce requirements, really optimize that workforce and your costs. And then industries that are requiring a lot of different skill sets, not one specific type, particularly project management, customer service oriented fields, and industries that are really technology driven and that can benefit by partnering with a company that has some experience and best practices really across field service as a general industry.
Great. Thank you, Tim. Next, we're going to ask you, what is your customer's experience level with third-party technicians? Are your customers brand new at this? Are they experts? Do they fall somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, we've really worked with everyone. We found that hardly anyone is fully an expert in using contingent workforces or a third-party company. Most people have some experience using contractors and the like for engineering or construction, or anybody that's not 100% employed by your company. So we've worked with customers that we've been their first outsourced attempt, I should say, and then we've also worked with customers that are used to it and they're adding us on into their portfolio. And we've worked with customers that are bringing us on to kind of clean up some of their portfolio and be a larger provider for them. So really, with the trend in recent years, this is being used to reduce costs and to boost the availability of just a job market where it's hard to find qualified field engineers.
Great, thank you. Tim, what would your customers say are the top three biggest drivers for partnering with ProAutomated?
So these answers here, 1, 2, and 3, are taken directly from my customer base. So number one was expanding their workforce, typically driven by the need for a quicker response time. That had just needing to scale. Well, like number two, scale up quickly or scale down resources quickly. It can be either and cost effectively. So number one being that we needed probably a bigger footprint to get to people in a quicker time, where people weren't having to jump on airplanes. Number two is then the resources, kind of the peaks and valleys, saying, I need 40 technicians in 3 months. Can you help me? And then number three, the quality of our team, because we are a third-party outsourced service provider. All we have to live and die by is our reputation. So the quality of the field engineers that we provide, which I find is driven really through our customer service, our social engineering, as I call it, and then our project management.
Great, thank you. In your experience, what are companies' hesitations, questions, or concerns about using third-party technicians?
Yes, so this is again from my insight as well as taken from my customers and different people that I've talked to in the industry. It's number one, wondering how our field engineers will learn the technical knowledge, and I actually find that's the easiest one to overcome. Number two, questioning how an outsourced provider would take care of their customers. And again, an outsourced provider, good ones, they live and die by reputation, right? And so taking care of your customers, which are our customers, is really what we do. And number three, the perception that customers might have. And this one is it's a perception a customer may have if a third-party technician shows up and they're expecting a manufacturing rep. And really, that just has to do with expectations. So we found if the expectation is set correctly, the service level and the training is there, then the service level that's received is very consistent. And that's what you're looking for in a third-party service provider, is a consistent service level with the technicians that are in that third-party provider, as well as the technicians that you have. And so you want consistency across the board. There should be no difference between sending one of your guys and sending a third-party provider.
That makes sense. Thanks, Tim. This is a great question. What thought process should companies go through before engaging with ProAutomated or any other third-party field service team?
Yeah, so I went through and I listed really 5 things, 5 questions I think that companies should ask themselves. Number one is, do they have the internal capacity to manage a network of third-party technicians? Partnering with a third-party service provider like ProAutomated, or partnering with a workforce platform like a Field Nation, those are going to be sort of different. They'll provide different levels of service. And either one is acceptable. It depends on the amount of resources that you as a company have to put forward. And so if you partner with a company that has field engineers that work directly for it, tends to be a little less work required than working with a platform that's going to provide independent contractors. So again, just a decision internally that needs to be made. Number two, like everything else, how will you evaluate the success or the failure of such a program? Number three, do you struggle hiring and retaining field engineers? And really, I think one of the drivers of outsourcing field service has been that retention aspect, where not only are recruiting and hiring and training costs high, but when you add in a lower retention, which the Millennials and the Generation Z, they're just not staying as long and they're looking to move quicker. And so as that starts to cost companies more, can you pass that cost on to a company that's really built just to do that, just to hire, recruit, train, and retain workers. Number four, how much does that cost you? Sorry, that's what I was talking about there. How much does that cost you versus having another company, like a third-party company, manage that process? And then number five, what are your customers' biggest complaints? Um, and if you list those out, and a contingent or an outsourced workforce could potentially help, whether that's response time or quality or whatever it is. If they can help, then that's a good sign. And if really the issues and their complaints are more internal, then that's something that you as a company should look at.
Great. Thank you, Tim. Tim, if you had to fill in the blank here, help us do that. So you're going to tell us, we at ProAutomated predict that the use of third-party technicians will grow by blank percentage in the next 5 years, and here's why.
Great question. Blank percentage. I can tell you that as a company over the last 8 years, I have been growing at 50%. I would believe that is probably pacing the industry as a whole over the next 5 years. I can't see a way that this won't double every year, and that's where my path is taking me. Over the last couple years, that doubling has been it's been very apparent through these three things that I've listed here. Really being able to calculate a return on investment, the time and expense of hiring your own technicians and field engineers is going up, that recruiting and hiring and training costs. And then the the recruiting and hiring costs. The training is actually going down as with some new technology implementation and wearables and augmented reality is going to change that as well. The other thing that's going down is the time that you're going to have these technicians. And because of that, your cost continues to go up.
Great. Thank you for that insight, Tim. Now I'd like you to share with us some of the quantitative results that your customers have experienced and some of the qualitative results.
Yeah, so these on the slide here, you guys can read them. These are three things that for different customers have been able to attain. We've got that 99.2% first time fix rate with our field staff. That's over our 13,000 projects that we've done. Decreasing travel costs by 76% over a year for one customer. We're able to do that just by using the breadth of of the technicians and where they are. For myself, and decreasing response time by 40 days and 3 months for another customer. We were able to get a bunch of technicians hired and trained, and the training on this takes about 6 months, and so we already had some of the skill sets that were needed, and we were able to make some adjustments internally to help this customer within 3 months, and then be able to backfill. Because again, the training this isn't a week or two type training. On those, we can actually move quite a bit faster. And then qualitative results, increasing the quality of their engineers all around, really doing this by knowledge sharing, field service best practices, just beginning to pilot right now and implement augmented reality solutions with some customers. We found that some of our customers, and I think we'll share that in the case study on the next slide, where they're actually partnering with us in order to help them implement this new technology. And we've done that over the last 11 years with many different customers for different aspects of technology. And then, of course, I shouldn't necessarily say, of course, for our company, we're always looking for long-term partnerships because of the nature of providing a high level of customer service and a high level of training and a high level of technology based solutions. The long-term relationships, our average customer relationship is over 5 years, and that's really because we've only been in business 11 years, and so we don't. Once we are partnered with the customer, we just continue to work with them and because it really truly is a partnership, and that ebbs and flows over the years in terms of their needs. um, and what we can provide to really solve some of their problems.
Great. Thank you, Tim. Like you just mentioned, I had asked him, can you go out and interview one of your customers and on the webinar share with us a little mini case study? So that's exactly what he did. Tim, do you want to talk us through this? Tell us a little bit about the customer that you interviewed and talk us through some of the answers they gave you to these questions?
Yeah, I definitely will, Emily. So this customer, and they don't mind me sharing their name, is Eaton Corporation. You guys may know them. They're an electrical um, products company. They have a lot of lighting. They have some control solutions, anything from lighting fixtures to the breakers that you use. A lot of complex type equipment. Um, so they're one of our customers. They've been our customer for 10 years now, and I was able to ask them these questions. So number one, what was the primary driver behind your decision to partner with ProAutomated? And they said that they partnered with us to help them implement new ideas and technology. Again, in the augmented reality wearables space, as well as this is back 10 years ago. So we were implementing iPads and web forms, and you guys that have been in the industry for a long time know, going from carbon copy job reports and sign-offs to bringing that kind of into the digital age. Second question, what are the top reasons for using ProAutomated technicians instead of directly employing more of your own? Three things here: better able to service customers during their peak demand. So they have probably about 6 months where demand is a lot higher than the other 6 months, and they're able to augment us and use us in that way. Their ability to scale quickly. We work with a lot of customers where there's a lot of red tape for hiring, and the service industry, as you guys I'm sure will agree with me on, can tend to be overlooked a little bit, and your recs and your hiring can tend to get cut quickly depending on how the overall company is doing. And the problem is you still have stuff and customers in the field that need to be serviced. And so we've worked with a lot of companies where at that time or over the course of years, they just haven't been able to get the resources that they need to service their customers. We've been able to scale quickly in order to provide them with that, sometimes on very short demand. And the last point here is customer demands for specific equipment that may require kind of some specialized skill sets or certifications or experience. So question number three, how do they think they're going to modify their use of a contingent workforce? We're not the only one that they use. They do have other partners. And they said that it will increase, they'll increase to use it a little more. There was so then number four, what advice would you give to companies consider using contingent workforce? I found this was good. What advice would they actually give? And it's to start small and to give the outsourcing company a specific product or a specific geographic region, and then to grow from there.
Thank you, Tim. That was all really insightful. We appreciate you sharing that with us. And that concludes the data portion of the webinar. I'm going to breeze through these couple slides on Astea, couple slides on ProAutomated, and that way we'll have a few minutes here at the end if you did have some questions for either Tim or me. So if you don't know who Astea is, we are a global company. We were recently recognized with a Frost & Sullivan Customer Value Leadership Award for Mobile Workforce Management, which I'll touch on in another slide. But this just gives you a nice view of where we are throughout the world. And I am in the Philadelphia, our global headquarters, that nice little red dot you see there. So we're in nice, dreary February weather here in Philadelphia. Again, this is just showing you some of the customers that we work with. We have a great community of some of the world's best service-driven companies from all different industries. These are just some of the examples of some of the great companies that we're very honored and privileged to work with. And again, as I mentioned, we're really proud of this. This was a great validation from the market, from Frost & Sullivan. And one of the direct quotes they gave us was, Astea effectively addresses the reality of today's highly demanding connected customer, the increased complexity of service activities, and the significant role that mobility plays in satisfying those expectations and improving the customer experience. If you haven't seen the latest version of our mobile application, Alliance Mobile Edge, I recommend getting a demo. Tim, do you want to talk about ProAutomated just for a minute?
Sure. Yeah. Real briefly, you guys can look at the slide. These are some of our customers. Some of the things we specialize in, offering permanent and semi-permanent workforce optimization solutions, really for resources. My contact information will be at the end of this presentation here, and would love to talk to any of you if you have any questions or any ideas on how ProAutomated might be able to help you. And then again, some of the industries that we're currently in, some of our projects. I think I covered the rest. That's it, Emily.
Great. Thanks, Tim. All right. As promised, for all of you who have hung on with us this whole time, thank you so much for your attention and your interest. I wanted to stay on this slide so that if you have any questions for either of us, please reach out to us. Here's our contact information. And since we do have a few minutes before the top of the hour, if you'd like to ask us some questions, you may. There should be a little module in GoToWebinar you can click to type in your questions. While you're all doing that, I think I'll kick it off. I'm assuming, based on what you now know about ProAutomated, that some of you might be asking this. So I'll kick it off, and I'll ask you a question, Tim. If you could give one piece of advice about attracting millennial field talent, what would it be?
Yeah, and that one's easy, Emily. The first thing that I advise companies on is to look at your job description. More often than not, that job description was written maybe a couple years ago, maybe by somebody who isn't in field service, maybe by somebody who is not in the millennial generation. And so just look at that job description, go through it, send it to millennials that you know and say, hey, is this attractive to you or not? The first thing that's going to represent your company and that a potential millennial field service engineer is going to see is that job description and that job posting. And so take a look at that and go from there.
Great. Thanks, Tim. Don't see any other questions at the moment. I'll ask one more in case some of you are still busy typing. And this is interesting. So it's asking me, do Astea's customers use the Alliance platform if they have contingent or third-party workers, and if so, how does it work? So yeah, we understand that this is a trend in the market. It's certainly something that we address. One of the ways, I'll just mention one of the ways we address it is through our scheduling function within our scheduling module of our Alliance platform. You can consider when you're scheduling a new work order, you can consider scheduling either one of your own direct employees or any type of third-party technicians that you use. So this is really important. It allows you to use the best and the most cost-effective mix of resources for field service labor that you have to address your customers' needs. Let me just see if we have any other questions here. It doesn't look like we do. You are all very quiet today. So with that, I will conclude the webinar. Thank you so much for attending. We really appreciate your interest. And again, feel free to reach out to either Tim or me if you had any other questions. And we hope to see you on another Astea webinar so soon. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks.